Thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Periodically, we'll bring you true stories of angelic encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. When we come back, we'll begin our next episode. Hello again and welcome back. Today we have a special treat. We're going to hear from Prophet John Paul Jackson, who's gone to be with the Lord now, but was a very accurate and very special prophet. God would show him future prophecies in headline newspapers. In 2012, he did a telecast of the prophecies and the headlines that he has been shown by God of future events. Now, some of these events have probably come true and some have not, and others may be being fulfilled in this time frame now. So now, let's hear from John Paul Jackson.
We're going to start answering some of the questions that we didn't get to last month right after I tell you a little bit about the perfect storm. I've got some notes here. These notes are basically headlines. I will have like a dream or a vision or a trance or something happen, and I'll see a newspaper come to me, and I'll look at the top of the newspaper, and it would tell me, I will read the headlines, and sometimes it tells me like a month, or it may even tell me a day. Sometimes it tells me a year, but I won't remember the month or the day. And so I'm not saying that the headlines I'm about to read to you are going to happen in the same time frame as the perfect storm by the year 2020. I don't know, so I can't tell you what I don't know. I'm just letting you know, here are headlines that I have read that came from heaven. So I get headlines from heaven about things we're going to be reading in newspapers around the United States and even around the world in some cases. So, too big to fail fails, nation's bank being pushed. And I don't know how all this is going to happen, but because of certain bank failures, a national bank is going to be pushed. Too big to fail fails, nation's bank being pushed. I believe what's going to happen is they're going to nationalize Bank of America, and it will change the entire banking system in the United States, perhaps in the world. When that happens, it will set the precedent for the next phase of economic things. Next headline that I not the next one I saw, but the next headline is this: is the infrastructure of America beyond repair? Meaning it takes so much money to repair the deferred maintenance that we've had, we don't have the money to do the deferred maintenance any longer. The next headline: the rise and fall of the political parties. New third party gains ground. The rise and fall of the political parties. New third party gains ground. Next headline: the Washington Monument tilts more. Delays announced to other monument repairs. It was like repairs that needed to be done on the Washington Monument were delayed because the monument started tilting. And apparently it not only started tilting, it started tilting more than it had. And so delays were announced, and it wasn't just to the Washington Monument. It was also to other monuments in Washington, D.C. There was delays announced to monument repairs. Then I saw this strange headline. It said, "The Great Divide, the new normal on the Mississippi River." And it's like this was a headline after an earthquake. So a little while after an earthquake had happened, and they were no longer able to go all the way up the Mississippi from New Orleans all the way up the Mississippi. They weren't able to any longer. Somehow something happened with the river in an earthquake, and so they call it the Great Divide, and how business was now operating on the Mississippi River since they could not traverse the whole way up. Another headline: Washington, D.C. riots. Washington, D.C. riots continue. That's all I saw. Washington, D.C. riots continue. And then I saw another headline that said, "Chicago up in arms." And I believe that had to refer to something of anger, maybe riots. I don't know. I don't want to suppose too much. Sometimes I see headlines, I don't know what that headline means. That's just the headline I saw: Chicago up in arms. Then I saw I've seen another strange headline, and it simply said, "Where's the Navy?" Something had happened in the Gulf of Mexico, either the Gulf of Mexico and or on one of the coasts. And it said, "Where's the Navy?" It's like something happened, and the Navy should have spotted this issue before it happened. And they didn't catch it. Somehow it got under the radar. It bypassed the radar. Somehow it got around our protective grid, and the ocean protective grid that we have around this nation. It got around that, and I don't know how that happened, but it did. Another headline I saw was "New United America being pushed." It was like there had to be something economically done with Canada, United States, Mexico, and I'm not sure about South America. Maybe, I'm not sure. But for sure, Mexico, the United States, and Canada, an economic issue had arisen, a worldwide economic issue, and our solution, or the solution that was being pushed, was that we become almost like, instead of the United States, it would be United America. And I'm not saying that's the name of it, but that's the headline that I saw: New United America being pushed. Another headline I saw was "GPS loses its GPS." It's as if, for some reason, the global positioning system, GPS, no longer worked like it was supposed to work. Something happened. I'm not sure what it was. I can always suppose, but I'm trying to limit this to what I saw, or saw a byline, or caught a sentence of an article about what happened. I don't know what that means. GPS loses its GPS. Another headline I saw was 3 planes down from solar tsunami. 3 planes down from solar tsunami, and others were missing, but it didn't give a number. It just said 3 planes down from solar tsunami. And then as I read on down in the byline, there were other planes that were missing. They were trying to track them down and find out what happened. One that I've said for a while, I actually had this. This was actually the first headline that the Lord gave me. The very first headline He gave me. This was in September of 1985. In September of 1985, the first headline I saw was this. And this was the one where the first time a newspaper came to me flat and then stood up before me, and I read the headlines. And it simply said this: "Volcano erupts near Tokyo, 7 million dead, another million missing." Volcano erupts near Tokyo, 7 million dead, another million missing. And in this headline, actually it was a little more than a headline. I was actually found myself standing across from Tokyo on a high, either on a mountain or a high hill or something across from Tokyo. Some a tree was blooming, or is either blossoming or it was just finishing blossoming. A high-speed train had just gone by on the railroad tracks a little bit in front of me, maybe maybe 200 yards down from where I was standing. And I looked across the city of Tokyo at a huge mountain in the background that was half covered with snow. The snow was about halfway down on it. And I saw a plume of smoke or steam come out the side of the mountain. And then a little while later, I saw another plume of steam or smoke come out the side of the mountain, the volcano. And then I saw a third plume come out the side of the volcano. And a short while later, I saw it shake, and I could hear all the noise of the city, the people, the trains, the planes going overhead, just the hustle and bustle of a huge city. But when this thing happened, when it erupted, I remember saying, "Oh, this is worse than Mount St. Helens." And it blew, and smoke and ash came toward the city, but it was like steam, water. The water was so hot it melted things. When it hit it wasn't just it blew things over, but there was a melting that took place. And then a short while later, all the noise had turned to, it became muffled, and then it just quiet. Absolute quiet. And there's more details, but I don't want to bore you with all the details of it. But I'm concerned because at the time I had that, Mount Fuji was a dead volcano, but today it's now becoming active. So I thought it was time I better bring that up again, because one day that will happen.
Hello again, this is The Watchman. Please join us each week for an exciting and inspirational podcast dealing with angel encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. So tune in each week and share it with your friends. After all, they could use a little inspiration in their life, too. That's the Watchman on the Wall podcast, and now you can find us on YouTube. We return you now to John Paul Jackson and his prophetic headlines.
Another headline I saw was "City Tunnels Closed After Bomb." A bomb went off, and some city tunnel, I don't know where it was, some city tunnels were closed after the bomb. Another interesting headline I saw was this. It said, "New Year's Terror" was the main capture. New Year's Terror. And then the byline was, "Out with the new, in with the old." Out with the new, in with the old. Now normally you'd say out with the old, in with the new, but this byline said out with the new, in with the old. It's like we said terrorism was dead, but we found out it's not. And so New Year's Terror, out with the new, in with the old. Another headline I saw was "Record set for number of cities with riot curfews." Record set for number of cities with riot curfews. Then I saw another separate headline that said this: "Martial law to be extended for 30 more days." And it wasn't just one city. It was more than one city. I can't remember what the cities were. You know, it's like one of those things where you remember it in the experience, but you don't remember it when you come out of it. So I don't remember what the cities were, but it simply said martial law to be extended for 30 more days. Another headline I saw: "Severe cuts in number of soldiers." Severe military cuts in number of soldiers. Another headline: "Nuclear disaster under the high seas." I don't know what that meant, but it said nuclear disaster under the high seas. Another headline: "Ocean temperature rise spreading. Millions of fish dying." something. They were trying to find out what happened, and I'm not sure. They had narrowed it down to 2 or 3 things, and one of them I remember was like the earth opening and the heat from the earth, like the core of the earth. I'm not saying literally the core of the earth, but deep inside the earth where there's a much higher temperature, was being released into the sea at such a rate. The crack of the fissure was so large, they were thinking that that's what was causing the ocean temperature to rise. And there's millions of fish dying. The picture I saw was whales were dying, walruses were dying, porpoises were dying. And this happened in the Pacific Ocean, Another headline I saw was blight in grains spreading. Blight in grain spreading. There was, and it was like, there was almost, you would think one blight was done and another blight would hit a different type of grain. More than one grain was affected. Another headline, drought continues to cause prayer to rise. So drought continues to cause prayer to rise. Another headline I saw, NFL postpones all games until answers found. NFL postpones all games until answers found. Another headline read, does God play softball? Hail the size of softballs destroy thousands of homes and autos. Don't know where that was, but does God play softball? Another headline I saw was, the new North Pole is found in North Russia. The new North Pole is found in North Russia, meaning the North Pole had the magnetic North Pole had moved so much that it was no longer under the North Pole. It was in northern Russia. It had shifted by that many kilometers. Cyber attack cripples grid, multiple collapses with restart efforts. So cyber attack cripples grid, multiple collapses with restart efforts. Don't know where that was. I don't know what grid that was. I just know that was a headline. Another headline is said, politics and trust, the new oxymoron. Politics and trust, the new oxymoron. Meaning, I guess that means that the time's coming when we won't be able to trust the political leaders to do what they say. Another headline, what other secret weapons does Israel have? Has Israel played all of its cards, was the byline. What other secret weapons does Israel have? Apparently they had one and did something, or if they somehow it was found out about. And then the byline was, has Israel played all of its cards? Another headline was, loss of identity, the cost to belong to the new Euro community. The loss of identity, the cost to belong to the new Euro community. Another headline was, radical solutions create shock waves. Administration says we ran out of answers. So radical solutions create shock waves. Administration says we ran out of answers. So it's like they'd tried everything they knew to do, so they had to do something they'd never thought about doing, never thought really that was that wise. I'm not sure, but it was obviously shocking to people what the solutions or what they went on to do. Another headline, Israel, if missiles hit Jerusalem, Mecca will be hit within minutes. Israel says if missiles hit Jerusalem, Mecca will be hit within minutes. So it's like they were using that as a protection mechanism. So another issue of drought, but this one said, record high temps accompany record drought swept south. Record high temps accompany record drought swept south. Another headline, demand for classic seeds skyrocket. Demand for classic seeds skyrocket. Another headline, derivative panic hits global markets. Derivative panic hits global markets. Another headline, food prices lead nations escalating inflation woes. Food prices lead nations escalating inflation woes. And then this headline kind of came just not that long after that, and it said this: Cisco and Kraft considers guards on delivery trucks as food nears 40% of the family budget. Cisco and Kraft considers guards on delivery trucks as food nears 40% of the family budget. And a little bit of what I remember reading, I didn't get to read much about it, but a little bit of what I remember reading had something to do with food was so expensive, people would actually rob food trucks while the driver would be delivering the food into the store. They would rob food trucks, and they tried locking the trucks with padlocks, so the driver had to come out and unpadlock the truck every time. But then they were also beating the truck driver and robbing the food truck, and also using some type of a torch or saw or something that while the driver was in, then they had this lock mechanism that I guess was hard to get to, but they just cut a hole in the side of the truck. They just cut a hole in the side of the truck and went into the side of the truck through the metal of the truck and took the food out while the driver was delivering the food. So Cisco and Kraft apparently one day are going to consider guards on their delivery trucks. Another headline I saw that caused me great concern was simply this. It said, big regulations hit small banks. Big regulations hit small banks. Another one simply said, credit markets freeze up. Credit markets freeze up. And then the last one I'm going to read tonight was this. It said, the new face of Robin Hood. Flash mobs loot rich neighborhoods. Flash mobs loot rich neighborhoods. So those are headlines that I felt I needed to start sharing. And this is one of those places where we're going to probably put it. We're going to put it on the Preparing for the Perfect Storm website. I'm sure we'll probably have it up for a while under news on the Streams Ministries website as well, because I need to let people know, for whatever reason, that these headlines are out there, and they'll be reading some of those headlines before too long, I'm afraid.
Hello again, this is The Watchman. Please join us on our new video channel called Encounters from Beyond the Veil. It's the same exciting content as our audio podcast, but in a shorter, but yet a video format. Also, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our episodes. That's Encounters from Beyond the Veil, exclusively found on YouTube. Well, thanks again for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. Also, give us a like. We welcome any comments or suggestions you might have. We also ask you to subscribe so that you will be notified of all our future episodes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Watchman on the Wall podcast.